Do fish drink water? It might seem like a strange question because they live in water, but all animals need water. It's the thing that all the chemicals in our body dissolve into in order to conduct the chemical reactions needed for life. It's the universal solvent. But fish are surrounded by water, so you might think they don't need to drink it, and you would be right half the time. It depends on whether the fish is a saltwater fish or a freshwater fish. So to talk about this, we have to talk about what osmosis is. And osmosis, very simply, is water's natural tendency to want to move across a barrier from an area that's less salty to an area that's more salty. And this occurs across a fish's body and its gills. So the fish's gills and body act like this barrier, this membrane that water can move across to try and balance out the salinity inside the fish and outside the fish. And so saltwater fish live in an environment where the water around them is saltier than the water in their bodies. And so water will naturally want to leave their body through their skin, through their gills, and go into their environment. This means they're constantly losing water. And so if they don't drink water, they're gonna run out of water. They're gonna dry up and shrivel and die. And so saltwater fish have to constantly be drinking water to replenish the water that they lose naturally through this osmosis process where water is leaving their body through their skin and their gills. Now you might be thinking, doesn't drinking salt water make you more thirsty? Well, yeah, if you're a human it does, because we don't have an efficient way of dealing with the extra salt that's found in seawater or ocean water. In fact, if you were lost out at sea and you started drinking ocean water to stay alive, you'd actually die of dehydration. Now, it might sound weird to say you die of dehydration by drinking water, but it works like this. Every liter of ocean water has about 34 grams of salt in it. Your body wants to get rid of that 34 grams of salt. But our kidneys can't produce urine that's salty enough to get rid of it. Our kidneys can produce urine that has a maximum of 9 to 17 grams of salt per liter. Let's say you have the best kidneys in the world. You're producing urine that has 17 grams of salt per liter. If you drink a liter of ocean water, you're gonna consume 34 grams of salt. But your kidneys can only produce urine that has 17 grams of salt per liter. And so to get rid of 34 grams of salt, you actually have to pee out 2 liters of water. So you're drinking 1 liter of salt water and peeing out 2 liters in urine. So you're actually losing water by drinking water. I know it sounds crazy, but you'd actually die of dehydration drinking salt water. Saltwater fish, however, have actually developed a really cool way of dealing with the extra salt that's in saltwater. First of all, their gills have special cells called chloride cells that actually expel salt through their gills. And also, saltwater fish kidneys are really good at making very salty urine. And so they drink saltwater all the time and they pee very infrequently, but their pee is very salty, very concentrated with salt. And so that's how saltwater fish get rid of the extra salt they drink from drinking seawater, is they expel it through their gills because of the chloride cells, and they pee it out in their highly concentrated urine. But freshwater fish are different. They live in an environment that is actually less salty than their body. So the lake that they live in is less salty than the water inside their bodies. And so water will actually constantly move through their gills, through their skin, into their body. And so they need to constantly get rid of that water. Otherwise, they're gonna blow up and die. It's the opposite problem that saltwater fish have. And so freshwater fish pee constantly, all the time. But don't worry, their urine is very diluted because they're constantly peeing. It's mostly water. But they're also losing salt that way. And so they need a way to get salt in their body because they need salt. So their gills are different than the saltwater fish gills. Saltwater fish gills expel salt. Freshwater fish gills take in salt. So freshwater fish don't drink water. They get all the water they need osmotically through their skin and through their gills, and they pee all the time. So this process of fish regulating how much water is in their body is called osmoregulation, and some fish species are really good at it. Some fish species can live in saltwater or freshwater. They're called euryhaline species. Salmon, for example, live the first few years of their life, and they lay their eggs in freshwater, but live their adulthood most of their life in saltwater. And some fish species are called stenohaline species, and they can't tolerate differences in salinity. So goldfish, for example, must live in freshwater, and haddock must live in saltwater. And if the salinity of their environment changes too much, they will actually die. All right, it started raining, but we're gonna finish this video anyway. And so, okay, that's fine for fish, but there's other organisms that live in the ocean. Like, what about seabirds and marine mammals? Can they drink salt water? Well, seabirds actually do drink water, like penguins and seagulls and albatross. And what they do is they have a special gland in their head. It's like a second kidney that extracts salt out of their blood and makes very salty, essentially tears that come out of their nostrils, go down this groove on their beak, and drip down their beak. You can actually see it. If you observe seabirds, you can see that their beaks are wet and they're dripping water. They're getting rid of salt through really salty tears constantly. And some marine mammals, like seals and sea lions, actually can drink water and be fine with it because they produce urine that's 2.5 times saltier than salt water. And so they drink salt water all the time. They pee it out just like saltwater fish do. But most marine mammals, like whales and dolphins, for example, don't drink seawater. They get their water in a different way. They get their water by turning the food that they eat into water inside their body. It's called metabolic water. We do it all the time too, but only about 8 to 10% of our total water intake is metabolized from our food. Whales get all of their water from metabolism. They turn the fat and protein and sugars of the food they eat into water inside their body. So they never actually have to drink water. They just eat food and turn that food into water. I think that's so cool. So do fish drink water? Well, the answer is, if they're saltwater fish, they drink water all the time and they pee infrequently, but they pee very concentrated urine. And freshwater fish don't drink water. They get their water through their skin and through their gills osmotically, and they pee all the time. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps support the channel. Also, if you really want to help support the channel, I have a Patreon, link in the description. With the Patreon, you get an exclusive monthly video. You get to ask me questions about the videos and I'll reply to those questions. You get to suggest video topics and I'll pick my favorite topics and make a video about those. It really helps support the channel, helps me make the videos that I love making and that I hope you love watching. But for now, I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious. Bye, everybody.